Hello and welcome back to another episode of CharlaFootball. I am your host, as always, Jerry, accompanied by Tomas. We are on live right now on Instagram Live, so we're gonna give our European competition reaction, our Euros reaction. We saw Portugal go through, we saw France go through. France went kind of the panzazo, I guess is the best way to describe it. Portugal, very surprisingly as well, went through. I thought Slovenia were gonna get through all the way, but anyways, first and foremost, Tomas, how are you doing today? We got Euros. We had a lot of Euro drama today.
Doing well. Obviously, kind of had a long morning with these results, but it was good in the end.
All right. Well, nonetheless, let's move forward to first. Just get it over with the France and Belgium game. Kind of disappointing overall from a tactical point of view, from a football neutral point of view. But I mean, like I said, France got the job done. They are still yet to score by their own means and from an open play as well. So it's kind of disappointing to see from this French team.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they have no goals in open play. All the goals that they've scored have been own goals and Mbappe's penalty. And they're for a team who's known to have one of the best offenses in the world, they're really lacking that.
They
Even just
really do have
finishing.
one of the best offenses, though. They have Griezmann, they have Dembele, Colomwani, and then Mbappe up top. But
Then you have the experience of
can
Olivier
show for it.
Giroud.
You have nothing to show for it, at least, and especially because you're going into the latter stages, and now you're going to face Portugal. I mean, what can you expect from France moving forward?
Um, I wouldn't expect much, to be honest. I mean, today they yes, they created some opportunities versus Belgium, but they were really shooting at the birds. They weren't able to hit anything on target. I think there was one shot on target other than that own goal.
Mm.
So it really, I don't really expect much from this French team. I think this is it for them.
Now, just on the day, what we saw between them, between Belgium, would you argue that Belgium was the better team?
I would say that Belgium was more effective because when they did have the ball, they were always looking for something to create forward, and they did create forward. I mean, they had way less shots than France, but I think they ended up even on shots on goal,
Mm.
which I know isn't a lot from France, but they're very more consistent with their attack where they get to the goal, they create these opportunities, and especially with the Bruyne strike. I mean, if De Bruyne was a natural righty, like as good as he is with his left, I mean he would have banged that in like nothing.
I remember Romelu Lukaku had a good shot on target that Mike Mignon saved as well. There was opportunities from both sides. Sorry, but I definitely agree that Belgium. I mean, they had the chance to definitely go up 1-0 throughout the match,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
they're just ineffective. They're completely up top when you just have Lukaku and you depend on Lukaku, and we know that. I mean, he's okay. He's a really good striker. He's just not as consistent as we would like to see him. But when you have, I mean, this French team overall, we're solid. I mean, when you see the scores that they put up, um, like the standings, and you see the way they performed as a unit, it was overall pretty well done, job well done. They just need to really get going forward, obviously. But let's talk about Kevin De Bruyne real quick because I know you kind of touched up on him. Kevin De Bruyne on the day, I mean, he can't do it all by himself, and it's unfortunate because I mean he's one of the best midfielders, arguably the best midfielder in the world, and what we saw, especially in that first 45 minutes, his coach Tolesco, he put him far too back, way too far back. He was kind of playing almost as a center defender, as a six, and you saw that hinder the way he plays moving forward. He couldn't really affect the game up until like the last 30, 45 minutes of the match. Kevin De Bruyne started to step forward, and that's when Belgium's like started to look a lot more dangerous. But I don't know. What did you think of KDB's performance today?
To have KDB in a defend first tactic is one of the dumbest things I think you could do as a coach because not only does KDB create how would I say this, just opportunities of going forward, but he's also really good at maintaining possession forward. And when you maintain possession in the other team's half, that wastes time obviously, but you're also not getting attacked.
Mm-hmm.
You're also not constantly being pinned down under your own goal, which is what France did for most of the first half. they really had the ball. Maybe they didn't pin down Belgium completely, but they really were able to touch and create opportunities. Yes, they were like half chances, but this is like this is the position you want to be in, where you're constantly touching the ball in the other team's half, where you're looking for these opportunities to have a mid range shot or whatever it is. But when you have a player like KDB and you put him as a defensive mid, it makes no sense.
Completely agree. He was just, like I said, ineffective throughout the day up until the last 30 minutes of the game where there's really not much else that he could have done. Now, a player from the French squad that really impressed on my end, and I mean overall he's been a very solid player for France, for Madrid, is Chouameni. He was today as the starting six, was just everywhere on the pitch and he was creating as much as possible. I remember a shot specifically that he had, kind of reminded me of Tony Cruz, where he kind of opens up his body, tries to put it in the goalkeeper's bottom left hand corner. And I mean, overall, I just loved his performance. I think it was just a vintage performance from Chouameni, even though there was no reward for his performance. But overall, I mean, that's who I would say one of my favorite players from this French team. But yeah, I mean, moving forward to France versus Portugal, um, I don't know what to expect from France. I don't know if they're going to get their goal scoring boots on, but Portugal on the same day they play Slovenia, and I mean, similar to France in the past two games, they haven't scored a goal. They haven't been effective up front. They've been kept quiet at least, and you have world class talents as well. And for Portugal specifically, you're talking about Rafael Leao, Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players in the world, the best player in the world. Um, you also have Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, and you come up against a Slovenia team who, on the day, I mean, this is probably a vintage performance, a classical performance, a textbook performance of the dark arts. They defended with their life, but I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them because Portugal on penalties, they got the job done. But I mean, let's first talk about Portugal since they are going to be facing France moving forward into the quarterfinals. Would you rate that Portugal performance?
Um, it was really an impressive, especially in the offensive terms. For this offense that you name, Rafa Leao, Cristiano Ronaldo, just those two names alone, and you have Gonzalo Ramos as well, that a player where coming off the bench is insane to have that type of those type of players on your squad. So I was really impressed that they weren't able to coordinate a goal because they did create chances and there was many opportunities for Portugal to go through. I mean, there was a shot from Cristiano Ronaldo that we're so accustomed to see him putting in the back of the net, especially with this time in Madrid. And it was just, I just expected a lot more from Portugal, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, me too. I really did, especially with the opportunities they did have, because it's not like they didn't create. Although it was difficult for them to create because of how well Slovenia defended throughout the whole match. But in the few opportunities that they did have, they did not take it. And the one that obviously sticks out to me the most, and I'm sure it will stick out to most Portuguese fans, and I'm sure it's living rent free in Ronaldo's head, is his penalty. While it was an amazing save by Jan Oblak, who is one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the past decade. Ronaldo, I mean, he doesn't miss those. He's known for putting his penalties away, and the fact that he couldn't do it today when it mattered the most, even though during the penalty shootout he did what he had to do. He said sorry for missing his penalty earlier, but I mean, you could have avoided all that drama if you just scored that first penalty that you had.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that, but we also have to give the credit to John Oblak because I mean he's used to seeing Ronaldo take penalties because he played against him so many times. I think he played what was it? Well, yeah, he just played against him so many times, but on top of that, I see what you're saying because Ronaldo should be able to score that because so many times we're so accustomed to him just bearing it because he is Ronaldo. He is one of the best players in the world still. But we have to remember John Oblak was on that Atletico Madrid team where they go to penalties versus Ronaldo. So he's been in instances where he has seen Ronaldo take so many penalties where he's probably studied him to the core and studied so deeply into him
Mhm.
where that happens. You get me? He's just prepared for to block a penalty versus Ronaldo because I mean, on Ronaldo's both penalties, he dives the right way, the correct way. When he saves, one he's like inches away. So I mean, he does wait the second time a little bit longer than the first, but he studied Ronaldo so well. So we also have to give him his credit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Ronaldo should have buried that. Maybe been a little bit more prepared since he knows that this keeper knows who he is, how he shoots.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it was also we also owe a lot of merit to John Oblak.
No, yeah, John Oblak on the day. I mean, he came up big when it mattered the most. Unfortunately, during the penalty shootout, like you said, inches away from making at least a few saves. But I mean, it's those little details. Those little details really do matter. Matter. Now, talking about Slovenia. Slovenia, like I said, on the day they were almost perfect. They put up an amazing defensive workshop, the defensive masterclass that it's very hard to replicate. And I mean, if you're a Slovenian fan, I'm sure you're so proud. I mean, I remember seeing clips of the fans after the match. They were jumping, they were still supporting their team because this is the first instance that they made it to the round of 16 ever. The first instance that they've gone to extra time in the Euros ever. The first instance that they're in a penalty shootout ever in the Euros. So the fact that they were just there, I'm sure they're humble. They're happy to be there. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the job done, but like I said, it's the little details that matter. And honestly, Slovenia had the chance to win the game as well, the same way that Portugal had the chance to win the game before going into penalties. And there was that 1v1 where Pepe slipped up. I don't know what happened there with Pepe and Benjamin Sesko, but Pepe tries to control the ball or give a pass. I don't know what happened. And there was just a mental lapse from Pepe. He gives the ball right to Benjamin Sesko, who's 1v1 with Diogo Costa. And I mean, we saw what happened. Diogo Costa came up big, opens his body, a great save. But Benjamin Sesko, he's been talked about so highly throughout the media, even about there's a possible move of him going to Arsenal. He's highly regarded as one of the next big strikers, the next big thing. And I mean, when you're in those opportunities, when you have that opportunity, you have to put it away. It was unfortunate. Pure Bets Pro here saying that he got nervous. You feel like he got nervous?
I think he had to, because uh,
I'm sure he
think
didn't
about it.
expect it.
I'm 21 years old. Me and Benjamin Sesko are the same age. If I was in that instances, I don't know if. Yes, I see both sides where he's a professional and he has to put those away. The side where he has the pressure, he's there in that position and he has to score it. But I also see the humane side. He's still a 21-year-old kid. He's still just barely scraping the surface of who he is to become as a player.
Mhm.
But if we're looking at it in a professional sense, he has to put those away. Like 10 times out of 10, you're a striker. You're projected to have these big moves. And I know he's probably in the locker room right now, banging his head against the lockers or just hanging his head
Completely
down on the
devastated.
bus.
Mhm.
And it's just what life teaches you, because if you look at all these footballers' journey, they always have. You can always pinpoint a time in their career where they had it and they let it go. Like Messi missing that one shot he had in 2014 versus Germany, or Ronaldo in the Euro. I think it was like, what was it, 2004? But just moments like that, I think this is gonna help him since he is a young player,
Mhm.
and he's gonna learn from this, and probably in 2 to 3 years he'll probably be one of the better strikers that we know of.
So what you're saying that is basically this moment right here is gonna mold him into becoming a better player, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it has to. I mean, these moments either make you or break you, and if it breaks him, that's the end of his career. But I don't believe it will, because I mean, I've seen the quality that he shows, so I believe that this is gonna help him and help him build
Mhm.
up. And well, that's those are my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but you have to be prepared for those moments as a professional footballer.
Now, talking about being prepared in the moment, like I said, defensive masterclass from Slovenia. Let's talk about that defensive line. That defensive line, the left back, the two center backs, and the right back. I'm gonna try to pronounce their names. I don't know if I'm gonna butcher it, but Balkovic, he plays at Alyanspor in Turkey. Bijol, he plays at Udinese in Serie A. Druskic, he plays for Sochi in the Russian league, and Karnasic, he plays for Selj in the Slovenian league. I mean, I don't want to say that they're nobodies in the world of football. But I mean, they're not playing in the Premier League. They're not playing in La Liga. They're not playing in the world's best league. I mean, besides Bicho, who's playing at Udinese, but I mean that's Udinese. They're a low tier team. But to be able to put up that kind of performance against Rafael Leao, Ronaldo, Joao Concentrao, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, I mean, they completely just neutralized them. They were not able to create. I don't remember a clear opportunity that Portugal really created if it wasn't a Slovenian mistake.
Yeah, I completely I agree with that because not that they're nobodies, but just these countries, Serbia, Slovenia, Slovakia, they're so good defensively, these Central and Eastern European countries, because they're used to playing these teams in World Cup qualifiers. They're used to seeing them, year in and year out. Obviously not week in and week out because it's not the club level.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so well prepared defensively that I think that that's their main tactic in the league, maybe. But if this back line, like how you said, there's one in the local league, one in the Turkish league, one at a lower Serie A team, I honestly think they deserve moves to a bigger team right now,
I
especially
mean,
with the
after
performance
those
that they put.
performances, yeah, after those
Their
performances,
performance.
I'm
I
sure there's
mean,
going to be clubs looking out for them. But I mean, it's just monumental performances from the back four. All like it all came down to the penalties, unfortunately for Slovenia. And I'm sure this is what I don't understand is that they were preparing for that moment. You can tell that from the first minute that that's what they wanted to get to. They wanted it to go to penalties. They knew they couldn't compete toe to toe with Portugal because obviously Portugal have the best individual players, or especially over Slovenia. But I mean, I don't know what happened. Once they got to penalties, it's like they froze. They didn't expect to get to that moment almost, and they couldn't even convert one.
it's also that one saying, "Be careful what you wish for,"
Mm-hmm.
because I see where they wanted to get to penalties because John Oblak saves Ronaldo's first penalty, but then Ronaldo comes out with his mentality and he picks up the ball to take the first penalty. Not hiding for the fifth, not hiding for the fourth. He takes the first penalty again and scores it. And I don't know if you noticed this, but if you looked how the camera changes from Ronaldo scoring the penalty to the Slovenian players' faces, it's kind of like they felt like it was lost already when Ronaldo kind of regained back that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but the penalties being shot on Portugal's side obviously favored Portugal because, well, it felt like home field advantage. And
Definitely.
Slovenia is probably not used to playing against an advantage like that, where
No,
you
yeah,
have
for
a
sure.
whole fan base against you.
Because I mean, there was a good amount of Slovenians there, but I mean, Portuguese mainly made up the stadium when watching the game. So I'm sure Slovenian players, when taking the penalty, they were shivering in their boots. While it may not look like it, I mean, you can only imagine. You're in a stadium full of 50, 60,000 Portuguese booing at you as soon as you're about to kick the penalty, and I mean, it only makes sense as to why they missed their three penalties.
Yeah,
Yeah, their three penalties because Portugal put theirs away. Diogo Costa, honestly, also a monumental performance from him. If I were to give a man of the match performance, I would probably give it to him because he really did come up big in extra time, and then he came up big in the penalty shootout.
yeah, for sure. But I feel like a strong factor was Ronaldo putting his away because it kind of shows him like that mentality that Portugal is coming out with. Like it doesn't matter what happens, it doesn't matter how many we miss, we're gonna win this eventually.
Yeah, honestly, that was an iconic moment because when Ronaldo took that second penalty, like I said earlier, he pans to the camera. He look at the camera to the fans. He looks at the fans and he's almost asking for forgiveness. He was like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry for the first error that he did commit." But I'm sure when you're watching your captain and the best player for your nation stepping up, taking a penalty, you feel better when he puts his away after he just errored that first one.
yeah, I'd have to completely agree. He completely made up for it, not in the whole sense, but at least by putting his away. Because if he misses that, that'd be terrible.
That'd be devastation for Portugal. Now, Portugal versus France. I mean, we already kind of touched up on it. Let's just give a quick prediction of what we think is going to happen in this quarterfinal fixture. It's going to be a repeat of what happened in what was it, the final in 2016. Can Portugal repeat what happened there, or will France finally get their revenge on what happened over there in 2016?
I feel like
I mean, based off what
I like France individually, but I just feel like Portugal's a better team. I feel like France may have better individuals
hmm,
because you do have Chouameni, you have, I mean,
Mbappe,
Mbappe,
Dembele,
Thuram,
Griezmann. I mean, you have. I
Griezmann.
mean,
You have,
they if you go like for like, I think it's very even between France and Portugal.
I just like the way that Portugal plays better.
Yeah, for sure. They're a lot more fluid compared to this France team. I think France have been very pragmatic, very boring. Honestly, that the only two games where I've almost fallen asleep was watching the French play,
Yeah,
and one of those games was live.
yeah. I mean, I have to agree with you because we saw that France Austria game and it was obviously it was a lucky own goal or an unlucky own goal for Austria.
Mhm.
But I mean, that was a sleeper, man. I remember that game. I wanted to fall. I was laying on the floor of the studio and I was about to knock out.
Yeah, no, the French, unfortunately, this Euro window just have not shown up for whatever. And Mbappe, you expect him to show up. He's had his flashes of brilliance, especially in this matchup against Belgium. But it's just right now, it's not enough. I don't know if it's going to be enough against Portugal. I mean, especially because Portugal have also been very solid defensively overall. I mean, you have Pepe, who's at 41, who's playing like he's 28. You have Ruben Diaz, who's considered one of the best defenders in the world. Joao Cancelo, who does have his defensive mistakes here and there, but offensively, he's incredible. We saw him today, what he can do on that right wing. And then at left back, you have the likes of Nuno Mendes, who, I mean, he's lightning fast. It's so difficult to stop a player like him on the left, both defensively and offensively. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting matchup between Portugal, between France. What's your prediction?
I'm gonna have to go with Portugal 1-0. Maybe 1-1 goes into overtime, but I feel like Portugal advance.
God, I hope we don't see another overtime, another sleeper. I mean, at least regarding the French. I mean, I hope they really step it up. Now, I'm probably gonna agree because from what I've seen from Portugal, they at least have a little bit more going forward than what I've seen from France, and I think Portugal can get the job done, and I think they will get the job done. I won't give you a exact prediction, but I think Portugal goes through to the semifinals.
Yeah,
So overall, a very interesting day in you're in the European market today. But thank you guys so much for checking us out. Make sure to follow CharlaFootball on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good shit. Check out the Spotify, the YouTube, and shout out to the people on the live. We got 3 viewers right now: Jeremy, Toto. I don't know who else, maybe Gabi or Yanni. Shout out to you guys for checking us out. We had a few more people on earlier, but I mean, I understand it's kind of still it's 3 o'clock, so not a lot of people are going to be watching. But yeah, support your small creators because together we're going to make it big. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure to follow every social media platform and follow us on our personal pages as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.